Got multi-live.
I know. I got
welcome as we get started and people start flowing in here. Yo, look at Jordan has got the Sitka jacket. That actually looks super sick. I was like excited about it. This makes me even more excited. You look excellent, brother, and that's a really, really tight.
Bro, thank you. I'm ready basically to go hunt some elk or some buck or shoot some dove or whatever it is we do with these things.
What's the most exotic game you've ever hunted?
Rare Supreme sneakers.
That's straight crossover. Ashwin, you ever been out? You ever been shooting skeet, tracking duck?
Absolutely.
Brought the dogs out?
Absolutely, multiple times. Big skeet shooter.
Bro,
Oren, I think they don't expect us to be heart and soul brethren, you know.
Exactly.
Oren, I think you actually have the deepest hunting experience here out of the Brand brothers. What have you done?
For sure, unexpected. Like online, they think I'm just a lib, but they really don't know, you know.
Yeah, they think you're just a fashion boy or like doing cutlery and all that, but you've actually been cutting necks and doing all kinds of things, right?
I shot a gator with a handgun and made boots out of it.
Holy,
we've got some legendary stories, but we'll save that for a different time.
That's incrable.
So hunting gator is interesting. I'll give you some context on hunting gator before we end up going to do it. There's a very small portion of their head that doesn't have enough armor for you to shoot it. So you can't just shoot it anywhere because they have like really thick, basically like armor around everything. So you have basically the size of a golf ball to basically put something into. So when we hunted it, we were hunting from distance. So we shot something like 100 yards, which was actually really hard to nail that spot, but we did that. And then they had like if you really want to get intense, they'll like basically get you up close and then you have to gack it with the handgun. But you really have no room for error. It's good. It's not as good as the pigs that you bay with dogs and then use the knife, but it's still good.
Wow. That's intense.
Anyway, straight into some insight.
This is now a hunting show.
Brought to you by Sitka.
Where's Sitka once? Suddenly, this is a live gaming show.
Shout out Sitka, shout out QU, shout out. This is actually a good segue into the Marmot campaign that Ashwin was talking about, where there was like for real hunters only, because we haven't seen the gentrification of a Sitka or a QU the way we have for Arc'teryx. Ashwin, I'd love to get you to give the Marmot breakdown.
So not Marmot, confused with Mammut.
Mammut. Mammoth. Yes, indeed. Mammut.
Swiss. Marmot, another classic outdoor gear brand. The space is competitive. So let me see. Can we share multiple? Pull it up here. So Mammut launched a campaign. So Mammut is a Swiss outdoor gear brand. They've been around since 1862. They launched a campaign in London this past week where they have been doing these like street activations saying that we are Mammut, we are not a streetwear brand. And they make this video, which let me pull that up. Let me figure out how to do this. Could you do it, Jordan? You're more skilled with this than I am. So what they do is they make a video and they basically say, listen, a lot of outdoor wear brands, the North Face, Arc'teryx, they don't name them explicitly, but they show them off in their video, have kind of lost their way. They're appealing to just like kind of gorpcore trends and streetwear. And we are not that. We are made for the mountains. We are like a serious mountaineering company and make product for the outdoors. So I thought, so I made this video kind of talking about this. And I said, I thought this is interesting because just as a brand leaning into, I've always been a fan of like brands leaning into a niche and really owning a certain identity. And it's this kind of inevitability where brands start out with a niche and then as they chase larger and larger markets, they kind of broaden their appeal, they broaden their SKUs, they broaden their collaborations, all kind of in pursuit of growing their customer base, making more money. And Mammut very intentionally saying, hey, we're not that. And one of the interesting reactions that, I've seen both on Mammut's side in their comments, as well as kind of like in the comments of my video too, was like, hey, if this was like, if they're really serious about this, they wouldn't do it in London. Like the way that they've done the activation, like almost seems like they're acting as though they are a streetwear brand. Like who are the serious, like mountaineering people kind of like living in London?
And
then
apparently.
you know, and then some kind of question of like, hey, is this actually just like a kind of like 3D chess move similar to, you know, Patagonia's Black Friday thing that they did where it's like, don't buy this jacket, that kind of like iconic ad that obviously then got more people to buy this jacket. So are they then going to, by claiming that like, hey, we are so authentically for like serious mountaineering people, does that then get co-opted by like a streetwear audience that's like, no, we want that authentic shit?
It's so good. I mean, I've loved it. You know, watching and seeing, like, I think it's cool to just be like, you know, not a streetwear brand is a cool tagline. I wonder that I'm actually so fair criticism on the London thing. How many of like Mammut's core consumers actually even know like what a streetwear brand is? That would be interesting to me.
Yeah, it's an interesting position for this. Like, hey, like Swiss brand. This is the most Swiss like Instagram campaign I've ever seen. Just like even from like the typography placement to like how they do it with it, it's like incredibly Swiss. But they're like so middle of the road. It's like a brand. It's one of those brands where like if you make a brandscape, it's like it's probably not even included. You know, it's just like so it doesn't stand for anything. Now they're finally like standing for something by positioning against. But it's just like, yeah, it's like I think they are playing the 3D chess. I guarantee this has been thought through, and they like thought it was funny. It was in London, and like every angle of this like campaign has been really thought through. And it's good to get them on the map. It's funny to see a brand assume an identity after decades of not having one.
Yeah. Well, you know, the identity probably started on the mountain or whatever it might be, you know, over there in the Swiss Alps.
Yeah, but it's funny because Arc'teryx was there too. Like, so when I first heard of Arc'teryx, actually when I was working in the outdoors industry, and they had all the operators wore it, right? Like much like with Solomon's, like a bunch of Marines, a bunch of these guys, like who's their go-to, and they were doing a press trip that a bunch of journalists I knew who were like outdoors journalists, like they brought them all to the Alps and like had them in Arc'teryx, like doing some like pretty intense stuff. And it's just funny how those cycles go. And now it's like 20 years later, and it's like, oh, well, that's streetwear because it was co-opted, and now it's like Mammut is the standout. Yeah.
It's interesting. I mean, if you look at
them
like
on the map in a way they weren't before. Like I don't think anyone's ever talked about Mammut, right?
It's funny though. I mean, that's true. It is true. I don't think I've ever said it before, nor would I have known how to pronounce it. Arc'teryx though, like you can see that they're, you know, in the same way that Nike is always going to show like sport, like Arc'teryx, if you look at this like feed, maybe one of this is like sort of streetwear. This is, you know, that
but it's funny. I called them out. I did this video last week on like standout e-commerce photography, like what makes good e-commerce photos. And one of the things I noticed on their site that I really didn't like is that they basically they had like their white background studio photography, and they were like positioning everybody. It's that one product photos right there, right above the one with Zach.
Oh yeah,
exactly from here. And so they have everyone as if they're skiing. They're like carrying their ski poles, like doing all their things, like but in a studio, which is just to me like if you're gonna do that, like as a brand that does it, like putting those people out of their environment, like so contrived. That I really didn't like that as a position for them as a brand who's basically I think they're like leaning into being contrived because obviously they like the sales and now they're owned by a conglomerate. But yeah, that's I don't feel that vibe at all. It's like it's so fake.
Interesting. Yeah, that's it. Well, I think like this gets really weird kind of in the studio like that. I do think last week we watched an example of Hoka do the, you know, kind of interesting. It felt very tongue in cheek. It felt like, okay, we know we're an outdoor brand. This is a trail running shoe. We're going to mimic that in a studio. That one, I think they're like middle of the road. They're in a studio, but they don't actually put any kind of, you know, snow or rocks or mountain like things that maybe could be playing into that. Yeah.
And so, which is like, and again, I guarantee it's not tongue in cheek because that brand does not have a tongue in cheek bone in their body. Yeah.
Fair enough. Still wearing Ashwin, your thoughts?
Who was that brand that did that contrived studio shot?
Arc'teryx.
That was Arc'teryx that did that. Yeah, I think there's, you know, like my first thought on that is, hey, if you're making like, you know, gear that's going to be used for like people who are skiing, snowboarding, mountaineering, it's like common that you're going to see photography of like people in context in those situations with like most of these brands. So like, is it interesting to shift them into a totally different landscape and like show off the gear? I think the studio execution probably isn't good, but I wonder like, could you do something interesting where you have those people like in city streets, like going to work and they're like decked out in this gear. And it's almost like I'm in this like state of mind where I'm like waiting for my weekend trip to do this.
Yeah, I think that's a super good campaign idea. Yeah, for sure. I think there's 100 like fun things they could do with that, but instead it's like their e-com photos.
Yeah. It's just like
from your cookies, brother. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
make sure your GDPR.
I want to deny. I'm trying to deny. I deny, bro. I deny. Oh, here we go. Yeah, so we've just got standard studio.
But I think if this was that, if that same shot where the guy had it over the head, to Ashman's point, was like in the streets of London, and it was more like
just like
preparation as a state of mind or something.
Yeah, that would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, but if you guys want to hear a joke, this site is in magenta.
Like that magenta?
No. Like the e-commerce platform magenta.
Oh gosh, yeah. Sorry, that's deep. That's deep.
Deep cut, yeah.
Deep cut. On this point, there's this comment that was left on my Mammut video that I wanted to call out. This person said, "I believe it's great that the brand stands and defends a public message. However, you cannot control how the consumer of your brand chooses to wear your clothing and for what situations. As a brand, you have to be okay with that." And I think there's this important idea, and we probably like talked about this in a variety of different ways, where as a brand, you always like have your one way, like you broadcast a certain message, right? You broadcast certain value or like, piece of communication. But we are now very much in a world where like, people, subgroups are like co-opting and remixing a lot of those messages and a lot of what you put out there and using it in their own ways. And again, brands have to be very okay with that. And so I think that's like, there is this part of this where might it become a streetwear brand? Absolutely. But it's like, does Mammut ever then just lean into that? Or do they just kind of say like, hey, it's happening, but we're going to ignore that? And I think someone else in the comments made a similar assessment with like Patagonia, where they were like, listen, it was like co-opted by finance bros, right? It was like the vest. It was like the finance uniform, but Patagonia never like leaned into that. They never like highlighted it. They never showed up in those spaces. They never did activations or collaborations with like anyone that was like,
in fact, they cut off their corporate program. They said, hey, you can no longer buy the vests in bulk and like embroider them. Like they actually were like, nah.
They did.
This reminds me, this is more Jordan Bima adjacent, but that like the resellers of the shoes who were like, it was like the Travis Scott golf shoe. You had to like the stores were making people like sink a putt. So like,
no, you had to hit it. Yeah, you had to hit a drive like 150 yards. So you had to basically prove that you were a golfer. They also did this in like Nike SB shops, like in skate shops, where you had to go out front and do a kickflip. So I actually
I would have completed it. It would have been ugly from there.
1,000%. Yeah, I would have been done on the skate.
So how do we feel in general about the about cultural gatekeeping for brands? If you're like, so Mammut's being like, hey, you need to show me your last 2 lift tickets to get this jacket.
Love it. Love it.
I love it. I do too.
So fucking in on that. I'm so fucking in on that. Or so it's like, okay, that's you could be like hyper exclusive where it's like you can't even enter without like showing this stuff, or it's like let me see like how many times did you go skiing this like past winter? Like show me your epic pass, whatever, like all of your lift tickets, and then that is a form of like getting discounts for the brand or like getting some like custom gear. Yeah, I think that can be.
I'm gonna do that for the car mats now, where it's like you guys submit your vehicle, like we're taking there are no Lexuses, like unless it's this model.
No Subarus.
Like,
only like
WRX fully allowed.
Yeah, 1985 and before, American made, like nothing else is allowed. Yeah,
it's like getting watches or nice art. It's like they're sizing you up. They want to know like you can't just be like rich in here. We got to figure out who you are and where you're coming from.
God, someone was talking to me the other week. They were like with the watch market falling out. There was like apparently there was like 2 or 3 of these guys who do like bigger men's fashion accounts were like, hey, should we all band together and do the funny little watch trend, like where it's like, hey, we're all wearing a swatch and just like fully position against that and being like, hey, like how far do you think we could turn the tides? I think that's an interesting concept. Like, what if you did get like 20 of these menswear creators together and everyone's like wearing that $100, like I don't think it's seen like the mesh metal swatch that's like $100 that looks really good. And it's just like cool. We're all just going all in on that. Like, to hell with Omega.
Love that.
Yeah. I think there should be more gatekeeping in brands. This sort of like no gatekeeping era. You leave that to the individuals.
Let our characters in China have the sales,
Yeah, I totally agree. All right, we've got Hulu TikTok to talk about. What's his name, Ashwin? I have his thing, but
his name is Brian Jordan Alvarez.
Oh, okay. I've seen him dance on my feed all week.
Yeah, so Jordan and I got into a Brian Jordan Alvarez hole probably at the same time.
Crap.
Week.
Yes.
I saw one of those videos. Let's pull it up. You could click on any one of them.
Let me just play this real quick.
What do you have to offer? Nothing. Only this. What's that supposed to be about, baby? Girl, free up your eyes, stop dancing crazy. You know I give you the good loving daily.
We're about to start losing lives, you know.
All right, sorry, hold on. Let me give you the one where he's like in front of the actual Hulu sign. He's done like a million of that. Like I've seen probably 20 different versions of him doing this. So this trending audio is the here it is.
So he's probably done it 30 times on Instagram, 30 times on TikTok. So what actually was that? So he is an actor in a Hulu show called The English Teacher, but not just actor. He's a writer, he's a producer, he's the director. Like the whole thing is his show.
And is it really? I didn't realize. I thought he was just the lead actor.
Yeah, I thought so too. And then some people let me know, like, hey, this is the full background on the show. So he started making these videos on October 10th. 10th or 11th when this sound started trending on TikTok. And the first one did really well. And he was like, all right, I'm going to make another one and another one, and another one. And I think what's really interesting about how he's leaned into the bit is like in every single one, he just says like binge watch The English Teacher. And he's almost co-opted the sound in a way, you know, like I've seen other people make those videos, but now it's like, he's just the only one in the feed with that. And he's like affiliated himself with that sound. And I've come across a couple of other creators on TikTok, especially that have done that. And what's interesting is you see a lot of people in the comments who are like, you know, I've scrolled past The English Teacher so much on Hulu, but like, because I just keep seeing your videos, like it was enough to get me to watch one episode. And then the product was actually good. So then I actually did binge watch it. And there's a ton of that commentary in TikTok and Instagram. I don't have like the Hulu rankings list, but there's like some noise out there that like
it's been this is basically like if Subway Girl was attached to like an HBO show, right? It's interesting.
Yes.
And so was this intentional? Like I'm trying to understand is he attached to the show? I have less context than y'all, or did this just happen?
Yeah, this is his show. This is his show.
Oh, he's an actor in the show or something.
Yeah, he is like the lead actor in the show. And he just
we're really entering the full no shame promo TikTok era. Like
yes. But like he has had a solid social profile prior to this show. Like he put up reels and like get, you know, solid engagement, solid views on it. So it's just interesting because like you check out his account and it's like everything is, you know, shameless promo for the show, and it's the first season of the show, so I'm sure he obviously wants it to do well. But then you go look at Hulu's account and like just Hulu's Twitter and Hulu's anything, and it's like you don't see anything about it, you know. And
I agree. Yeah, I looked initially on Hulu.
1,000 shows.
Well, can you imagine like you can just tell from their feed they're not approving anything, you know?
No. I looked even on their TikTok. And it wasn't on there.
And it's nothing there.
I can imagine what that meeting looked like. Where there's probably like two people in that meeting. Like there's like some woman's like, you realize like we have to do something with this, right? This is bigger than anything we've ever done. Everyone's like, what are you talking about?
Yeah,
literally.
And if you go,
go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, Jordan, just go back to their go back to Hulu's Instagram and let's look at their reels and just like see what kind of numbers they're putting up.
While we're doing that, I'm gonna give a quick anecdote that we've seen a big uptick this last cut 30 in musicians. We had a bunch of music artists who are all basically like, look, I have to make TikToks and they have to be good, and there's just no choice. And and then this ties to that too, where it's like, okay, cool, actors, whatever it is, and then but there's a difference between like, okay, you have a concept and you're executing the concept that helps you, and then but this is like this guy was just like, you know what, like I'm shameless, I'm going for it, it's gonna work,
totally,
and that's I don't know, that era scares me a bit, you know.
Yeah. Well, it's sort of shock marketing. If you look at every one of his videos, you know, he's got his shirt off. He's like kind of, you know, he's not your traditional like shirt off dancing guy. And like, that's what makes it, I don't know, like it's tongue in cheek, ironic.
This content is like this is so like Hollywood
Terrible.
old school exec trash.
Yes,
like you're getting the views off of celebrity, which is fine. I'm sure that the people that love celebrity are their consumer, but like, and it's also like, how often are they posting? Is it one a day?
No, multiple. There's 3 days. Okay. Let's see. These are all in the same day.
Okay.
Yeah. I would struggle to know like how much of this is paid. Like I look at these views, like how many people are actually, how much we don't know how much paid. The million, right here. That's hella paid. Yeah, I mean that's paid.
88,000 likes. It probably isn't. And what? Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
You think so?
88,000 likes.
Yeah.
Yes, like I have a 1 million view video right now with probably 20,000 likes.
And how many views?
You also look at like Goosebumps. This is a bad example because like Goosebumps is a cult, Yeah. And are they collabed with? Is that a Disney collab too? So I think there is like that. There's still this level of fandom. Like even we look at like the Ritz-Carlton stuff we talked about because they had the Hunger Games dude. Like she has 2 million followers even with 3 posts and it had massive engagement. Right? It's like there's still just this cult of celebrity that will work. Fair. It's just a parallel universe to what we operate in.
Yeah. Well, I mean, anyway, it's a fascinating. Unfortunately for me, fortunately or fortunately, I have now. I've seen every version of that trending audio known to man, and I've been trying to figure out what.
I wouldn't even know this exists if it wasn't for you guys. I love just the differentiation of algorithm. Great, yeah.
Well, it's crazy.
I have no clue what I saw you guys talk about.
Once you tap on one. And you watch like a full one, like that's it, bro. You're at the wrap. You're just done.
Text messages. Like, I got a group chat with some friends where like some guys will send these links. I'm like, bro, I can't click that link. Like, there's no way, right? It's just I have with my wife too. I'm like, I can't. Yeah, I'm not gonna hit that. My algorithm's gonna be gone completely.
I do that. For the longest time, I still do it. I'm like stubborn. I won't click on sponsored results like in Google. Actually, I just scroll down 2 more just to because I'm stubborn.
Saving them the $11.
Did
you see that Google ad that was going viral on Twitter? It was like a lawyer ad where it was like, "Don't click this link. It cost me $200. Text or call 814."
That's funny. That's good. Oren, why don't you give Mr. Fielder here is asking like, did views kill likes? Like, what? Give us your algebra analysis of what you're
everything
doing.
You see on Threads and everything you see on Twitter about like social media content and what's happening is just pure like click and rage bait, and like it's still just like you still get. Like there's a lower like to view ratio on Instagram than there is on TikTok, and it's both of them are lower than they were before. But there's by no means like it doesn't really matter. Like likes like aren't a metric that matter, but they still are something that happens all the time, right? And it's like and views would never kill likes, right? It's about view through and about sharing on all those platforms.
Yeah, sharing is kind of the big metric. I would say like share is probably
and still if you get no shares, no comments, no bookmarks, but you have 180% watch time, it doesn't matter. You're moving. Like you'll see that a lot especially when all those 6 short videos were going.
But Oren, like so like maybe to this point, if you have like a whatever 1,000 likes but 0 shares or saves, like it would probably not going to do.
The likes doesn't matter, right? Views didn't kill them, but likes is like even now. Look at like I can still have 100K view video and have like less than 1,000 likes, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah, and even comments these days.
Especially when you go into Reels, right? You have to say like people who are scrolling through a feed like more than people who are in Reels like. There's a whole bunch of these like little nuances to consumer behavior that's different. Yeah. Are you guys using Threads at all? Like my Threads is smashing.
No. Is it? So I'm very tempted because, and this is a great lesson for anybody who's trying to like run a brand or be on social or whatever. If you adopt the thing that the social platform wants you to do, like you're just going to swim in stream with it, right? So Meta is very invested in Threads. At least last year, they were heavily invested, and they still probably are. They smell blood in the water with Twitter and Elon kind of going off the rails. And so I think they are very invested in that. So if you're an early adopter, you can jump quick. And a prime example is that you also have the cross-pollination of Instagram and Threads. So if you already had a following on Instagram, you actually get an early, like I haven't done almost anything, and I probably have, I don't know, 5 or 10,000 followers on Threads just because I started to do a couple things over because people could immediately migrate of your following. So what's working for you on Threads, Oren?
Yeah, I'm like almost at 50K, and I'm just posting my tweets. mainly. And I'm also doing like some mood boards and stuff, but I've just noticed like the engagement's solid.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird because it's not live like Twitter. Twitter's like a lot like, okay, you post it, it's in people's feeds. It's everything seems to go like a couple hours later, but it's just like, it's funny because when I log in there, I see the content. I'm just used to like the hyper intellectualization of Twitter, and Twitter's like hyper intellectualized almost in a bad way where it's like, okay, you people have takes, but you shouldn't. Whereas people on Threads are complainers and their takes are bad, and they obviously haven't spent enough time on a platform to develop like what it takes to have like a nuanced thought you defend on the internet. It's like still very basic. So I hate consuming on it. But the content seems to go really well. And I've been now using it for like call to actions and stuff like that. I'm like, oh, it's now a thing where it's like in the rotation of like everything we post on. And I'm a big fan of like if you have spent the time to create the content, even if that's writing a sentence or making a photo, every place that you can humanly put it is like worth the extra 2 minutes of energy for whatever, like, and especially compounded over time. Like now that I've reposted, it's only been a couple of weeks of reposting, I've gained like 9,000 followers or something. And I was like, all right, this is a thing.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I have done this with vertical video. I think you're a good example of like, you've spent time, you at least have like a Twitter strategy and you're, witty and you keep doing it. I'm sort of stuck in the old era of like sports commentary of just like, oh my God, what did that person just do? Like I haven't been super strategic on Twitter, but if you are, go throw it on Threads, because my version of this right now is
the Twitter return. Like we measure it pretty thoroughly because we are tracked. Everything we do for Cut 30 is like tracked, and like the signups, you used to be able to build a lot. Like our Twitter, everything we do, all the energy put into it is basically for nothing. It's the same people. It's a super small group on Twitter, really. Like is how I feel like. I feel like the real user base that you can reach of like people that are in any of the things we're around is actually like 7,000 people. Like I think maybe even less, like maybe 5,000. I think it's like genuinely the size of the audience in this. And it's great, you can reach them, but like that's exponentially smaller than it was before. And then there's basically like there's teen Twitter and there's like black Twitter, and there's like a couple of these like sub niches that like are very big in their own right, but is not where the content we're doing is going, and that like have a whole different ecosystem. But yeah, it's an interesting place versus what like Threads is the Instagram community who's interested in it, and I think actually can probably get you some bigger reach to people that have not been bat over the head with everyone's call to actions on Twitter forever, which is mainly interesting to me from a marketing perspective for the people that really focus on marketing there. Like I look at the Beehive ConvertKit kind of war that's going on. Like both of those email marketing groups don't advertise on Instagram or short form video, right? None of us have ever done a deal with like an email software like that. They fight over all these same people on Twitter and like refuse to spend the money to go work with real influence, and then just operate in this area of like, cool, you get all these like based semi-autist people and you ignore the entire community of all the people that like make money. And it's a very interesting conundrum that I feel like a lot of these people are not approaching and just staying in the echo chamber.
So true. All right, do you have Vans next, Ashwin?
Yeah.
Okay, I see it on the agenda. Let me bring up this example. So last week, this is interesting. Last week, there was a kid on College Game Day in Oregon, I believe. So College Game Day, if y'all don't know, is the big broadcast VSBN who goes to the biggest college campus each week. So Vans hopped in.
Way to do a great kick today. Anyway, we want to make sure we get a hold of you so we can bring you down.
All right, so the College Game Day pitch is basically you get $100,000 if a kid can make like a field goal in the middle of the set. And this kid, the camera like goes down and gives like a zoom in before he kicks on his dirty Vans. And they were talking about on the broadcast, well, he kicks this amazing field goal. Everybody goes nuts. And he wins $100,000 for a scholarship and something else. So then this is the Vans CEO. And he hops in on TikTok and jumps in to like basically stitch this video. And it's like, hey,
green screen, let's go.
Bro, it's amazing. Full body green screen. What I think he has like a nose strip. I don't know.
No light Hermosi tape on the nose.
Yeah,
let's go.
Hermosi tape. And he's like, hey, we're also gonna we want to donate $100,000 to your charity, and hey, jump in our DMs because we want to invite you to campus. So here he is at Vans campus. They get him out of his dirty Vans, put him into new Vans, have him kick for the employee base. And then the CEO here is like, hey, we've got you. Oh, they made
football cleats.
Jason Kelsey. These are what I kicked in.
Anyway, so they're also owned by the VF Corporation. So, of course, they've pulled a cross-pollination of
wow.
They're asking Jason Kelsey to, kick something.
That's funny. That office is like 4 minutes from my house.
Is it? pretty much
everyone's like the whole the skate industrial complex, like the former Hurley, Vans, Volcom, Stussy is all in this like Costa Mesa area.
The golf complex is all down a little south of you as well. Like they're all
it's just funny how much stuff is in that little Orange County pocket.
Athleisure as well. Anyway, I thought this was super hilarious. Vans hopping in. This is the kind of stuff I just sort of live for. Like, what is the big cultural moment conversation, and how can you jump in to like do some good, add to the conversation? Of course, the Stanley CEO you've highlighted before, Ashwin, or the California Pizza Kitchen.
It's just the Stanley playbook. They had Ashwin's video bookmarked in the group chat, and they just brought it right up as soon as it happened.
The CPM makes sense. Let's give away $100,000. We're gonna make it back in views.
Totally. That CPM is pretty great there. Anyway, always love to see a good brand, hop in and do their thing.
Oh, there we go. So next one we have the Adidas commercial.
We did. I've talked about this sort of ad nauseum. Oren, you dropped it in the group chat. What do you think? AE1 continues.
Yeah, this is just a great. So a couple things happening here. First, the filming of this. I just want the art direction of this, right? You talk about standing out on feed with a campaign. Like you can make a campaign that's conceptual. This is a campaign where a celebrity sits down in front of a lie detector to and there's a bunch of really good jokes and anecdotes that are like amazing for a sports personality, right? But to me, the real standout was like the way they established the scene in that first shot, and then the way when they zoom out, they're against this like peach background is like they're said, hey, not only are we going to create this like great campaign and advert, but we're going to design it for social media in a way that's just going to be like incredible on the feed in like an extremely subtle, well done way. That like that's the kind of stuff I really appreciate.
I totally agree. Little plug for my broadcast channel on Instagram, but we have the director Onda who does like all kinds of music videos and stuff in there, and he's like
I want to shout out what you're doing on the broadcast channel, because I actually bring this up all the time because people are like, what should I do with the broadcast channel? I'm actually like, hey Jordan, so the best person who I actually think you're the best person that I follow who has a broadcast channel. So what Jordan does, and I want to get your strategy taken in a minute, is like anything that happens in your sphere, anything in sports marketing, not only you're like, hey, this thing is happening and here's my take, and solicit responses, but then you like get people in the broadcast channel. You like got the director or whatever of this commercial like in the channel, and not like, oh, it's 2 weeks later. Like it was like fast. And I think that is the best use of this medium that I've seen. In fact, you may be using it too good for the reach that this medium has, but like you want to talk a little bit about your strategy there and like how that's worked and what you're doing?
Yeah. Thanks, Ellis. That's the only broadcast channel they follow. Goes to our comment earlier about how when the platform cares about it, like Threads, I could tell that they were going to be really invested in it. So when they rolled out broadcast channels, I figured, okay, Instagram is going to be very invested in this. I should probably, pay attention to it. And so I just started, like, to me, it's a deeper, it's a way of having a deeper connection with the audience. Like to me, so like if you have your following, so I have 100,000 on Instagram, you have the people who are in your comments, you have the people who are in your DMs. To me, this is like just a great version of like filtering down. So I have like about 3,500 people in there. These are the people who are like most interested. And so that's where I can put like my super niche stuff. I think I've found, for all of us to make a green screen video. Yeah, it's like not a super lift, but it's kind of it's a pretty lift. And so I just use it to like forward things that I immediately see. And I'll type out like, yo, this is amazing. And here's why, or this is what someone should be doing, or like the super niche, like on this one, I think that the interesting things that we've talked about are like, the agencies that are behind this work. So this is Johan Leonardo. There's creative directors who are behind the work. There's all that. Like, I want the people who love that type of stuff, who are interested in like the next level to go super nerdy, because you can only do so much in 90 seconds, on a video.
And it's interesting. I've been trying to replicate that strategy a bit. I just am not as good at it and have not put as much intention into it. Of like, okay, cool, I see something. Here's this cool thing I see. Here's some anecdote, but just like haven't been good at it. But I think for anyone asking, how do I make a good broadcast channel? How do I use it? If you have a niche like Jordan's, go see and follow and join Jordan's for sure. And then look at it like that, being like, what are things that are just happening? Like almost like a news, but don't just put it in there. Be like, here's my take. This is good or this is bad. And then what's my secret? Like what do I know that other people don't? even if it's just research, like, I mean, Jordan doesn't, I don't think off the top of his head know the agency behind this. He's going and Googling it or looking at some LinkedIn's, like has a process for that. And so he's like, okay, let's give my secret. Who are the people behind it? Who else should you go check out that does that? And so for instance, like if I was like, hey, cool, here's this new lookbook, here's the photographer, here's the creative director, like whether that's for, you know, a bathroom company or for like a fashion company, that would be a cool use of it. I'm just not as on it as Jordan is.
Have you seen any brands using broadcast channels?
I see them try.
I've seen smaller brands like Bravest. Some of these drop-based brands do it really well. Like Bravest does it pretty well, where they're like really prepping you for the drop and like making sure that you're connected for stuff like that. But I haven't seen any other brands super solid. What about you?
Interesting. I have not. Jordan, have you?
The only one that I know that's actually interesting is the Masters golf tournament. So ironically, the Masters is like the most sort of antiquated tournament in a lot of ways, but they're really innovative on their social and digital strategy.
Their art direction is incredible.
It's incredible. They're so good. And there's a really nerdy history there that I could tell you, but basically they obsess the consumer journey, if you will.
Yeah, we should collab on the Masters art direction YouTube video. Let's just table that.
Let's do it. Yeah. Okay. Note to self. But yeah, they obsess that they want the best experience for their fans, and so they will drop in like, hey, tickets, you know, practice tickets are now available or something like that. But yeah, it's usually a commerce early access type play, like you were mentioning. Okay, who do we have next? Let's see.
What do we have next? We got Rutgers, Adidas.
Let's move on. Let's do something else outside of sport. Oren, did you have something this week, or Ashwin, you started?
Yeah, I was at Notion this week. I can give the quick. Okay. I can give the quick Notion spiel just because it's an interesting day. I was at Notion's conference where they announced mail, and like going after email. And I do love, like, it's just funny to put yourself in the perspective of, you're like, imagine you're the CEO of they were a tech company with 100 million users, and you're like, you know what I think is actually a really ripe niche to go into that really isn't being served correctly is email. Yeah, which I thought was funny. But yeah, so they announced Notion Mail, which is interesting. And they had the whole like hoopla. It was a very Notion event. I go to a lot of those conferences and things, and they have like everything was like very intentionally and creatively thought through. Like all the chairs were really nice. Like it was like all these little things that were like extremely Notion. But no big anecdotes about that. But I was interested to see that like they have a Docs app, and then they announced they have a calendar they've had for last year, and now they're doing email. And I thought it's a pretty interesting scenario if you are one of these traditional work companies, if you're Microsoft, if you're Google, watching Notion with a extremely cult audience and following, go after all of these things and succeed.
Notion is why I don't use it to its potential, but I see the potential. It's like it's pretty amazing. You use it a lot, don't you?
Yeah, I use it for everything, mainly, and it's not like it's perfect, but it is significantly better than the other tools and is easily adoptable. And like, yeah, so we use it for like, it's our content calendar. It was 90% of Cut 30 until we moved to Kajabi because it just got too unwieldy. It's everything with my designer and videographer workflow. We run all of Hyper out of it. Our Hyper reports are in it. And honestly, one of the things that is the most useful and reason that I use it so much is because you can just embed TikTok and Instagrams that play inside of it and publish it as a website that's private, which is like, seems like such a simple thing. But like, for instance, I do these reports, like I do reports for major retailers, I do reports for whatever, where I'll be like, here's these trends, here's these things you should act on, here's a strategy. And the fact that I can make a toggle, I can embed 5 TikToks as examples, and I can have them, they can use the accordion toggle to turn them on and off, and they can just play them without leaving the doc. And then I can share that so they can look at it as a website, password protected or not, is like from a doc. Is like, again, it's just mind blowing that that's not like features that are common within these other processors, but obviously they don't care about that at all. And that workflow is just incredible.
Yeah, it's super powerful, and I recognize that I don't use it well enough. I use it with like some project management stuff, and it's pretty amazing. But I love those like kind of reports that you've done. A big creator, Peter Millar, does really interesting Notion templates, and you can like sell them. You can share them with your community. It's really cool.
Topic. Because I like to think about the business aspect of this, especially when I'm at these events. So I'm there. I was like a speaker. I hosted a panel with the social media team from Duolingo and the social media team from Arc, the browser company, which is actually fascinating. But because we're very different approaches, all of us, to social media. But there's all these other influencers there, right? And there's the people that are like paid to be there. Right? I'm just speaking. It wasn't like a sponsored gig or anything like that. But there were people that were. And one of them that was like the biggest one there, or who had like, like after you talk, there's always like, there's like a creator community time. And I had like 10 people come talk to me. And then there's one guy who had like 75. And you're like, Jesus, like he still has like a line, and it's the next day. And he's a YouTuber who makes only Notion YouTubes. 250,000 subscribers on YouTube, and it is every single piece of content is like Notion workflow content. And that was just a really interesting like thought to me of like if you just want to go to the most lucrative niche possible, like take a software that's cult and just like give as much information and value as you humanly can. And like he is making the template money, he is making the YouTube money, he is working directly with the brand. And it's just that's so different than what we do, right? Where it's like we're kind of all over in these niches and personalities. And it's like, he's definitely making more money. Yeah.
Yes, we could all be making more money if we were a little less ADD and a little more focused. But we wouldn't have as much fun, maybe. What else should we dive into here? Do you want to do goldfish, or should we talk about Peter Millar?
Let's talk Peter Millar. I don't think the goldfish was all that interesting.
Okay.
Yeah. So the Peter, this is a thing near and dear to our hearts. We've all seen the Peter Millar scenario, right? We've all had it where you're one of the boys.
Tell everybody what Peter Millar is first. It's pretty neat.
Peter Millar is a golf polo brand, and you may know it if you know someone in your life who it goes a little too far, right? He goes on the trip. He's going to the strip club. You don't want to go. They're going out late. They're doing all the things that you don't want to see happen. They probably wear Peter Millar, right? It's like the golf polo of the of the man who's not
elite. Yeah, I mean, you definitely have a country club membership if you're wearing Peter Millar. You visit the Hamptons. You have a nanny. Like you've got all kinds. You've got a lot of
things. But really, you're just tipping the golf cart girl like a little too much, right?
Yeah.
Really, you're like you drink and drive. Like that's kind of
chatting with her a little too much.
Ends up wearing it versus who they market it to. But the reason that we're talking about Peter Millar is they went after our friend Colin Lamforth. So he posted some videos. He does his like factory videos. Here's who makes this or here's who makes that. They requested takedowns on these videos because they didn't want people to know their suppliers or whatever it was. Which means that our boy can no longer do collab posts. He's throttled on a few things. And so, we started looking, I made a comment about how all Peter Millar wears, I know, cheat on their wives, which got, tons of likes, right? So like, top likes comment, 80 plus. This obviously resonates. We all know 5 or 10 of those guys, right? And so we're looking now, like we set up a hotline where we can kind of go through some of those stories. We can really start sharing the Peter Millar experience more with the world, and then kind of see where this goes. But Colin is really just requesting that they no longer request to take down his videos, which there is no actual right to, and that they compensate him for the CPMs of those times. And he does note that it is the same ownership holdco as Cartier, so he's requesting whether a Cartier tank or a Cartier Santos equal to the CPMs which he has given Peter Millar inside his videos.
Yeah. Wow. Wait. So I didn't realize that he's like throttled now on Instagram and can't do collabs and all that. Like it's because he got flagged. They flagged him like legally.
Yeah, exactly. They removed some of this content of which he just shows. There's just like an image of a Peter Millar jacket or whatever it is, which is not actually how this works, right? If you are doing critique or commentary or whatnot, like you can use these images if you're not like there's a whole line there, but it's interesting. So he's appealed to Instagram. He's documenting his reach out there, but it's good because I think it's really bringing to light like what the Peter Millar customer is like. And if you have a Peter Millar customer in your life, you should really be rethinking, what that looks like, and then maybe sitting down with them and like having a real conversation around what that brand means.
Oh man, well, I don't know if our audience is that, but. This
Jordan,
Sunday
I'm really not trying to mess up your potential future Peter Millar bag.
Yeah, watch out! I'm working with a golf agency here. Peter Millar might have big checks.
Look, Peter Millar, they need a restructure. Like, they need to have a representation. We all know what they stand for now. I think they're going to need to post this Peter Millar situation. They're going to need to have some help on redoing that. They should probably go to Jordan to kind of communicate that they're more around people with good morals. People that stand for something.
Yes, you're right. They should. I don't know if I would take the Peter. Anyway, we'll back off on that. But
Peter Millar smear campaign.
Yeah,
great.
Ashwin, give us your Verizon. So you've been through this with Verizon, right? You have like some of the best story.
Ashwin, if you were in Colin's shoes, what would you be doing to let people know about the evils of Peter Millar?
Well, here's what I'll tell you. My Verizon video got taken down. Okay, and
no way.
Yeah, it got taken down on Instagram, and this was probably 2 days after it was posted. And there was there was nothing in there that should be taken down. And they didn't even claim like what it was for. It's just like post violates our guidelines. Look into the guidelines. What are the guidelines? They just show me miscellaneous guidelines. And I suspect it's like, Verizon, a big spender, probably has like a great relationship with Meta. They're like, hey, this video is like gaining traction and it speaks badly about us. So take it down. And I did not want to rock the boat on that on Instagram because my petty beef with Verizon was outweighed by my desire to keep my account in good standing. So I kind of let it ride. And then I made some like fun stories here and there, but I never tagged them. Whereas I did tag them in that video. And so it was like on their radar. So I think if Land Force is in here, you just gotta know what you're going up against.
So Verizon versus Peter Millar. So Peter Millar, obviously part of the dark cabal, the Illuminati. Were they present on Epstein Island? We'll see. Were they at the Diddy party? Certainly.
Was he with Mike Jeffries? Were they all together?
Yeah, so it's a little bit different. So going against that versus Verizon, I think there's like some slightly different levels to it. But look, this ties into it. It's interesting. Like, so when you choose to go against, people on the internet, you have to know what you're going up against.
Absolutely.
So if you or someone in your life has been violated by someone wearing Peter Millar or Peter Millar customer, we are setting up a hotline and we'll be on Land Force's Instagram. You will be able to dial in and we will share their stories. What else we got here?
Jordan, you're on mute.
I can keep going on all day. Saying like you got to defend the homie.
Yeah, you're right. We do have to defend it. Yeah, but I mean, I think there's something to learn here though, and I think Nike probably not a good example for some of these other ones, but we would deal with social stuff all the time. Like, it's not a good look to go try to take that down, to try to use your power to suppress the voice of your consumer if they're upset. Like, you should really just jump in and try to do that. Like Peter Millar, the better example. So let's workshop a little bit. What should Peter Millar have done? If I were them, invite Land Force to come to your headquarters and be like, hey, what is there something that you don't like about this? We want to show you our manufacturing process is actually even better than you think it is. And here's what all the steps we take that actually your standard consumer on Alibaba is not going to be able to get, and show their superiority, perhaps.
Exactly. Or just have a conversation, or even have a message and be like, hey, this is actually kind of weird for us. We haven't had that happen before. We just want to have a conversation about it, understand where you're coming from or whatever. And then he'll probably be like, it's just be human about it. But to the point, if you go straight to bullying, straight to the only thing we know how to do is cease and desist or whatever that is, that's not the internet conversation now. And it's going to lead to a lot more of your dark secrets coming out, especially when they realize how many of their domains that we picked up over the last, 48 to 72 hours.
Yep. Totally right. All right. Well, we got to rally the troops then. Okay. I'll give speaking of brand battles, Adidas and Nike. This is a really funny one, and shout out to SEO. I don't know if it's just serving me, but I'm
this is a common thread. Every time we pull up any of these topics, we're on the top there because that's how this works.
That's how this works. SEO, y'all. Super interesting. Oh, actually, Rutgers football is just using my
guy said the Peter. Let's decorate the Peter Millar quarter shift with some applique that says Peter Millar is part of the cabal. Cabal Millar would be a hot topic. I'm saying they should consider that. They should lean into the evil.
Yeah. Well, okay. Rutgers. I don't know if y'all know, but Rutgers basketball is not Rutgers, big university in New Jersey, not huge, not like Duke, Kentucky, Kansas, whatever. So they're an Adidas school. They landed two of the biggest recruits in the country. One of them is the son of Ron Harper, famed. He played alongside Michael Jordan. He was number 9, one of their guards, and they won 5 championships together. So their sons are now coming of age, and we see this with Carmelo Anthony has a big basketball player. Carlos Boozer has a young son who's coming up. And they were restricted from earning any money in name, image, and likeness. So they couldn't get paid. If they got paid, they got paid under the table, like the Fab Five, and then they would be punished for their life and, basically shunned. But I think they're being empowered now. So it's really interesting. What started to go around sneaker Twitter was oh my gosh, these guys are wearing Nike sneakers. And if you're not versed in this, basically whatever the school deal is, the apparel and footwear company, the players are required to wear. They agree when they sign up for the school, they have to wear that. They can sign NIL deals and promote those products outside of the school, but within the school context or any of the official basketball activities, which include practice, the facilities. You're not allowed to wear an opposing brand. And these two big recruits started showing up wearing Nikes, and they started showing up in the game wearing Nikes. And people were like, oh my God, what's going on? So I started doing a couple of videos on it. And then, of course, all the sources start coming in. Ron Harper, the NBA legend, retweeted my video and was like, my kid's going to wear Nikes no matter what. He's been wearing Nikes since a baby. Y'all just need to get over this. And then I started getting DMs from Adidas people, and they're like, hey, actually, that contract just got terminated. And so it's a super interesting time and era where the and then now like the big media outlets have picked it up, which is just fascinating. But it's super interesting time in this player empowerment where some of these big multi-million-dollar contracts may get, broken up, and the old way of like sports marketing is now getting busted open and kind of, in this player empowerment era. It's super fascinating.
So what should people be thinking about? If you are a brand, if you are an athlete, how should you be considering this new era?
Yeah, I mean, I think one, you can go directly to the athlete and have them, you can do NIL deals with the athletes directly. If you're trying to get your brand out there. So we saw this with Cooper Flagg, who's a big recruit for Duke, consensus #1 pick in the NBA draft next year. He's got to deal with New Balance. Duke is a Nike school. He can promote New Balance to all his Instagram followers, TikTok followers, whatever. So I think that's going to be really interesting. If I'm a brand, if I'm a school, really, rather, this is kind of pretty niche, but is there a plane outside of your window, or who's what is that buzz?
It sounds like lawn is being mowed very close to someone. Is it you, Jordan?
No, it's not. It's not me. Is it you, Warren? Oh my gosh.
No, I'm just in a hotel.
Okay. All right. It just went away. So really, if you're a university, if you're a mid-tier university, I actually think there's something really interesting here about like sacrificing the big sneaker deal so that you can get bigger recruits. Like Rutgers will actually be really good. And you know what makes money for a university? Winning. You know what makes a lot of money and your fans is winning basketball games or football games and going to big tournaments. So that's kind of the thing that they should really be thinking about is you create an apparel contract. Maybe you're going to lose $1 million or so from that sneaker company, but what you'll gain in wins potentially down the road, you'll probably make up for that. So that's going to be the interesting thing going.
Definitely interesting to see the repercussions of NIL, et cetera. Yeah, man. I think we need to get on these endorsement deals. I feel like a college athlete.
Yeah. Well, I mean, honestly, there's times where I travel the country and I speak to college, teams at the biggest universities, Clemson, Georgia, Oregon, wherever we are. And I will stand in front of players and be like, I mean, there is no reason that me as a, bald guy, a dad who should have more of a following than you, who is on national television every day and has tons of people looking at you. If you do like the bare minimum, you can grow a big audience and have life after sports as well, which is going to be really good for you, So we can.
So the question we have here: how do you think sneaker brands will combat this if schools go that route?
They'll sign direct with the athlete, and they're just going to have to. They're going to have to restructure the whole thing. We probably don't have time to go into this, but like grassroots basketball is run by sneaker companies, and all of those recruits, like they start getting them at 11, 12, 13 years old, like that, spending all of that money now early to try to get you to go to a university, like that model is going to be blown up. Right. And so I'm just here to watch. Yeah.
If I was a sneaker company and I was attacking this era, say that you're ASICS or you're someone who's like, hey, we haven't really participated in this traditionally, but we're going to participate in it now. And you find a school that doesn't, they have some like locked in contract, and you can basically approach the athletes like picture this, right? You go and you say, cool, I'm going to find 4 videographers, young guys that are in this area. Say it's ASU just because I have context. I'm going to find 4 videographers in Phoenix and Tempe that get social media content, like really understand it. I'm then going to put them in touch with, we're going to sponsor 15 people across all these different sports or basketball, or whatever it is. We're going to cut these deals. As part of that, they have complete access to someone who's A+ to go make social media content for them. And they can do whatever they want with it. You guys want to make dances? You guys want to make styling videos? You guys want to film you and your homies? You want to do training? Whatever. We're going to basically charter you have to do X amount of content at all. We're just going to set it up so you're ready to succeed. You don't have to worry about filming it. You don't have to do whatever. We're going to have some sort of like social media workshop once every 45 days and just set yourself up for just immense success, and then get those guys all collaborating and stuff, and like have a bunch of like challenges or incentives or bonuses. Be like, hey, if you guys get 1 million views, we're going to throw you 50 racks or whatever it is. I actually think that you could create some really, really fun scenarios that these bigger companies would just never do, and would also just do it in a way that costs 100x what you could be like, hey, guess what? We got these guys on retainer. You know, I think this could be a really fascinating time for some creative brands.
Totally. Hey Dude has entered the NIL era in a lot of ways. They go and sign a bunch of athletes in colleges, like men and women. I mean, it's hey, if Hey Dude can compete,
Hey Dude, dominating crew, you know.
Yeah. Well, they're literally signing like the Heisman winner here last year. They're signing you know, Jaden Daniels to a Hey Dude contract. You know, he's going around LSU. They pay for the rights. Like, it is wild what they're doing, you know. And then Hey
Daniels fan. Again,
I mean, I really never thought I'd see
Hey Dude sales into the Jaden Daniels fan base, which is a wide fan base, but like,
bro, I'm telling you,
it might be a circle now that I really start thinking about it.
When I made the grave mistake of criticizing Crocs or Hey Dudes, like the youth were in my comments going, this ain't it, boomer.
They came for you.
Yeah. They came for me in the same way that Verizon came for Ashwin, and Peter Millar has come for Land Force.
The Crocs army, the Crocs youth army.
Indeed. All right, we got 2 minutes left. Is there anything else that we've missed this week? Any plugs?
Yeah,
Ashwin, go ahead.
The last big news. The last big news from this week was Ghost was
Energy.
Yeah, Ghost Energy. 60% of Ghost Energy was bought by Keurig Dr. Pepper for close to $1 billion, like $990 million. And I was talking to someone who is like somewhat like in that space and kind of like close to that transaction. And I think a really interesting point that they made is AB InBev was one of the distributors for Ghost. And so as part of that deal, there's a buyout of all the AB InBev distribution that now goes to Keurig. So all the AB InBev slots for energy drinks is kind of, it's like looking open right now. So AB InBev, we're talking to Lucky next week, but there is a possibility for a new energy drink basically to take in that slot. So whoever's like the new hot one that like fills in this space of Ghost Energy has a really lucrative kind of opportunity here. And what they were saying is that there are these kind of like every X years, there are these like big transactions that lead to like a massive like macro opportunity from a distribution standpoint like this. Where
like, Juvie is going to be in that slot in like a heartbeat because it's an interchangeable brand. Yeah.
Wow. Like so vitamin water or, you know, Liquid Death, you know.
Yeah, just basically, the pictures like that hole in your portfolio and the sheer amount of shelf space and volume, and it's just like they can king make now, right? And it's like what appeals to a similar demographic. Yeah.
Wait, can you tell me why the shelf space opens up? Doesn't Dr. Pepper still just have that through Ghost, or?
Oh well, potentially that's more of a distributor scenario, right? Like, so they're going to go. How I imagine this works, I know on a smaller scale, not on this scale, is that Dr. Pepper's going to be like, hey, we have that slot now, and across a certain amount of that portfolio, they're going to be able to go get that sale. But then AB InBev at the same time is being like, hey, look at this alternative you could fill inside that slot space because they don't want to lose those sales. And so they're immediately going to be like, oh, we picked up, again, let's use Juvie as the example. We have Juvie now. We should actually try that. Like, oh, have you seen the lagging sales report of the last like 8 weeks? Why don't we slot this in here? Why don't we get a trial program? And then there's going to be some percentage of that ratio they're going to try and move back towards their own portfolio.
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, yeah. Speaking of beverages, next week I think we'll have Lucky F Energy, who took over the U.S. Open in New York earlier this year, and have a fascinating not only branding but story. So stay tuned for that.
They have a pretty crazy team. They brought a bunch of ex guys from Liquid Death over. They have like a strong team and are kind of doing some good stuff in as a new energy drink brand. So Yeah, we'll talk to them next week. Get a briefing on what's going on there. But otherwise, anything else?
Hopefully we'll all be in next week. But this is a big live. We have 770 people on here now. We have 5,000 plus in and out. So appreciate y'all joining. If you enjoyed it, please go interact with any of our branded content. It's pretty easy to find. It's the stuff with the lower views. And just drop some comments for the lads. We would appreciate it.
And also, I mean, we're having a lot of fun with this. We're working with a couple of companies to like expand this. So like, hey, if you enjoy this, like share it with somebody or tell somebody about it when we hop on. Tell us, like, because we're talking with a couple of companies and potentially going on the road and stuff like that. So super fun. We appreciate y'all. All right, gents.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a great weekend. We'll talk soon. Bye.